The Marvel brand and IP is one of the most popular things in pop culture today, whether that be movies, TV shows, or comics. One thing that has really been absent has been the amount of licensed games surrounding those characters within the MCU. Early on, we did have some movie tie-in games like the Iron Man and Iron Man 2 games, but that has been a slowly dying breed of games, and for some time we really didn't have much. Then in 2018, we got the release of the spectacular Spider-Man game from Insomniac Games, which seemed like it was turning the corner for the half-baked licensed video games, with a lot of the eyes turning to the team over at Crystal Dynamics as they were supposed to release a Marvel video game based on the Avengers roster. And while they did release that game, it was a vastly different product than what I believe the general audience wanted. I did stick with the game for the story and the content because that's what I thought it did a really good job of, and I actually enjoyed most of it. But it was the live service grind and mission structure that was really the undoing. The Guardians of the Galaxy game, on the other hand, was an actually fantastic story driven game, and I don't think that enough people actually played it and were able to truly appreciate it. And the sales numbers, unfortunately, do reflect that, and most of the team that worked on that game are scattered, and the hopes of the sequel are all but dashed. So, Marvel Rivals is the game we're talking about today. And I bring up all those other previous games because I think this game has a good chance at setting itself and placing a good foothold in the genre and being able to leverage that Marvel license and IP. It seeks to be a game that pushes through and it's able to remain relevant in the hero shooter genre, which has seen a flood of games since 2016. While Marvel Rivals on the surface does just look like an Overwatch clone, I'm not going to say that you're wrong in that assessment, but there's more to it than meets the eye.
Next
I do have a little bit of a show plug here. I just want to pop in here and say thank you so much for all the support on my videos this past year. It really means a lot because there's nothing that I love to do more than sit around and talk about video games and share that all with you. So thank you. So I do want to mention that I recently hit 500 subscribers on the channel and unlocked memberships. So if you'd like to become a member, you can click that join button down below. It's super basic, but I plan on getting some emotes and some emblems made for when they join. I also want to do some progress updates and also do something where I maybe put members' names in the credits of my videos as well. But never feel like you need to be a member. I just have that option there if you want to support me aside from watching the videos, which is more than enough for me. So enough of the shilling. I just wanted to put that out there. So let's get back to the preview. From the gameplay, you might have been able to ascertain a few things. One, this game is set in the Marvel Universe, and two, it looks a lot like Overwatch. The end. While yes, on the surface, that is a very easy comparison, I think it's actually a pretty good comparison for the games at the moment. While I don't think that Marvel Rivals is a better game than Overwatch, what it is trying to do is take components of that game and put their own little twist and spin on the genre in hopes that it can stand out from the latter. Unlike Overwatch, Marvel Rivals is played in a 6v6 manner with similar roles like characters in Overwatch, with multiple games like escorting a payload from one end of the map to the other. Then you have something akin to a hardpoint where you have to defend a location and keep the enemy team from capturing it. Those are going to be your standard quick play matches that you can just hop in, try to have a little bit of casual fun. There currently isn't a queue system in place like they do have in Overwatch, so you do have to kind of pick and choose when you're in the character select system. You know, you've got your normal healer, DPS, or your tank, but with all the other influences from the hero shooter genre, I do think that's something they'll look to add pretty soon. For the crowd that enjoys ranked modes, that is something that is here present in the closed beta. While ranked really isn't my jam because I do prefer a little more laid back and not getting all sweaty and stuff, but from what I've heard, it's a solid ranked mode, but no doubtably there's going to be some tweaks, there's going to make some adjustments, probably leading up to the full release. In general, it's been a blast to just float around as Magneto and crush people while I'm swinging as Venom. But I have to admit, at times, this game isn't the best feeling. The best way I could describe the combat is loose and floaty with really not much punch or weight to any of the attacks. While this is just the second or third test they've done for Marvel Rivals, a lot of the game does feel ready for a full release or at least something like an open beta. The game does feel ready to go from a content standpoint and somewhat ready to go based off the way it feels because there are times, like I said, when I felt like I was fighting the game, but I was also having a lot of fun while doing so, so they kind of clashed at times. The maps when you're playing, on the other hand, I thought all looked really good. Each of the locations that you'll find in the game are something that's based off a location within the Marvel universe. There's one that takes place in Asgard, and then there's another in a futuristic version of New York that Penny Parker lives. They also have some destructibility baked into these levels as well. That helps offer up a different approach instead of being funneled through one of three checkpoints like you normally would have to. And these slices of the different universes I think are really cool because they give you a glimpse into the world that our characters are coming from, and I can't wait to see what other locations and maps they might add considering the giant pantheon of Marvel characters at their disposal. Speaking of the characters themselves, they all look fantastic. When you first select a character on the main roster, they have this little visual flare or pop where they kind of come out of the screen into this little animation, which I thought was really cool. Venom is this giant monstrosity, then you have Spider-Man who's this skinny, lanky guy, and it might not seem like much with the sort of visual pop and flare, but I think it's nice to set those two apart and contrast the two within one another. Venom is going to be a lot tankier, and he's going to be able to get into the thick of things, while Spider-Man is going to be utilizing hit and run attacks because his health is going to be significantly less than Venom's. I highly recommend swapping between different characters in whatever role that you are going to try and play as sometimes I was getting a little bored of playing as Venom, so I went ahead and I played as one of my favorite characters, Magneto, who plays a lot like Sigma from Overwatch, levitating and using barriers to protect your teammates, while still being able to dish out a decent amount of damage. Punisher was also another character that I really leaned into, as he's more your Soldier 76 equivalent in the game, but a little more versatile than what you might find in your typical hero shooter because of the main thing that comes into play when selecting your team. This is going to be called the team up function. So one of the most basic examples that I can give you is Rocket in Punisher. So if you have a Rocket on your team, he can toss down one of his abilities, and if the Punisher is standing within that area, he's actually able to have unlimited ammo as well as an increased fire rate on all of his weapons. And there's not just one of these, there's a whole list of all of these team ups that you can see. There's another one with Scarlet Witch and Magneto, which allows Magneto to have an entirely new ability that he can use that he wouldn't normally have access to. Like I said, there's a whole list. You can see there's some with Adam Warlock, Mantis, Peter Quill. You've got different combos. You've got one with Penny, Venom, Spider-Man. And I think that this is a really cool thing to add to the game because if you do have a couple friends, you can kind of play around with it and maybe think of some different team compositions. Maybe you're playing with a full stack and you can maybe go 3-3 or 2-2-2. I'm not sure really what the other compositions would be. I think it adds a certain level of teamwork and communication that these team ups actually allow you to change up the playstyle and abilities of your character, which can in turn maybe change the battle. As we begin to wrap things up, I'd say that I was mostly happy with my time spent on the Marvel Rivals beta. Is this a game that I see myself spending hundreds of hours on? No. But I do see myself hopping back in to check out whenever a new content or patch drops. I'm sure that they'll add some type of crossover events or collaborations with whatever Marvel TV show or movies coming out, but those are the types of things that will get people to come back to check out the game. While I don't think that this is a better game than Overwatch, I still think they have a long ways to go in terms of getting the game going with the post-launch content, as well as updating and changing out the meta in the game. Marvel Rivals, I think, has a good foundation for what the base game is going to be, but it's what you do after releasing the game that matters the most. Marvel Rivals recently did hit over 50,000 concurrent players within, I think, the first hour of the beta going live, which is a stark contrast to Concord, a PlayStation-owned game that is developed by Firewalk, and that beta peaked around 2 to 3,000 players, and it's roughly the same type of game, but Concord is leaning for a little bit more story-focused content in the form of cutscenes. That's not really the reason why you play a hero shooter. Yeah, a little bit of the lore for the characters is always nice, but I'm here to play the game and have fun while doing so. And that seems to be a thing that Marvel Rivals is aiming to do, and hopefully do well. How the game launches, that's something to check back on at a later date, but that about wraps it up here for me. If you did enjoy your time with Marvel Rivals and the beta, let me know down below. If you did make it this far, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to check out my preview of the Marvel Rivals beta, and make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.